As you can tell, we like each other.
Yeah, yeah. We're soul sisters.
We are. We're soul sisters. It's been fun.
Well, it's 1 o'clock, so let me go ahead and get started for you guys. My name is Heather Lufton, and I'll be your host and moderator for this session. This session is Belonging and Purpose, Your Path to Mental Health and Well-Being in Uncertain Times. And we do have our two presenters here with us that I'm going to let introduce themselves to you. Please pay attention to the protocols in it. The presenters have allowed everyone to unmute and ask questions along during the session. So please feel free to, and please feel free to put your questions into the chat, and I will be glad to address them to the presenters as well. I am going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to our presenters.
Thank you, Heather.
I was almost thinking I should let us just introduce ourselves, but I think I'm going to start the slides. And let me just go all the way back. There we are. Do you want to start, Ilene?
Sure. Hi, everybody. And I'm really excited to be here with Barbara today to present at the Brainstorm 21 conference. And sessions that I've been seeing so far this week are really terrific. So just to be a part of it has been really exciting. And to thank Heather for all of her hosting duties and making it so much easier for us to be a part of this. I am, as I said, Ilene Winokur. I am and have lived in Kuwait since 1984, where I moved to marry the love of my life. He is Kuwaiti. I have 3 children, and they're all over the world right now. I fell into education in 1996 as a grade 3 teacher. And then I became elementary principal, then K-5 principal here in Kuwait at a private girls' school. And I started back at Lehigh University to get my doctorate, took some time off to finish my dissertation, and then went back as an intensive English teacher at one of the private universities here in Kuwait. And then after doing that for several years, I became the director of the program, which also included developmental math. I retired in 2019 and have been occupying myself with training and tutoring refugee teachers and students, podcasting, blogging, and I'm in the midst of writing a book about belonging. And Barbara and I will share a story of how we met, but I want Barbara to have a chance to introduce herself too.
Well, I just enjoy being here. This is wonderful. I grew up in Maryland, so when I heard this was Virginia, it kind of brought it back home to me. I moved the day after graduation to California, and that's where I've lived ever since. I'm in Oakland, California, and I couldn't make some of the sessions because I'm really wake up late, and it was really early. So I'm so glad that you record them so I could see them again. This is a wonderful conference. And when Ilene said, why don't we present together? I was very, very excited and have enjoyed many of the sessions already. I'm a teacher. I worked as a social studies teacher, but I also have a long story of before I was a teacher, I was a dental hygienist. So I tell my story in a book I wrote called Define Your Why, along with other stories, including Ilene's. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But one of the things that I love, I've been a consultant for many years and a coach working with teachers on personalized learning. I have 2 books, Make Learning Personal and How to Personalize Learning. And then out of that, when I realized that a lot of it involved our purpose, I started talking to Ilene about it. And we started talking about where the sense of belonging and purpose intersected. And that's kind of where this happened. So are we ready to go to the next, or?
We're ready. We're ready to get started so that everybody can participate.
So I just want to let everyone know that what we're going to do Yes.
Per participant, could you make your screen full screen so that they can see the slides a little better?
Okay, but I can't get to the chat, I don't think. So let me just see if I can do that.
I can do the chat also.
Okay.
And Heather is keeping an eye on the chat, so.
Okay. I just can't get to the other screens. I may have to turn it off and then go back and forth if that's okay. Okay, so can everyone see? We're going to actually do some interactive, and one of them is to find out. In fact, Kathleen, Eileen, do you want to say a little bit? You know what I'm doing. You want to say a little bit about this, and then I'll share how to do it.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the first things that I ask my guests on my podcast is, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word belonging or feeling a sense of belonging? So what Barbara and I would like you to do is, so that we have an idea of what you think belonging is about before we tell you what we've learned about belonging, is Barbara's going to share a code or a Mentimeter, and you can put the first 2 or 3 words that come to mind that you think of or thought of when I said the word belonging to you.
Can they get in? Let's see if they can get in it.
So you've got the slides. You should be able to click on the link or go to menti.com and use the code that's up there, 943805541.
Oh, she got it. I got the chat up also, so I can see. Can people get in?
Okay. Oh, and thank you, Heather, for posting it. Yes.
Oh, the link isn't working right? Okay, so then go to the, don't use the link, go to the code.
That's
Oh,
funny.
Chad's here too.
Yeah, I checked it this morning and it was fine. I wonder why it's not working.
Oh, they answered. Okay, so I'm going to just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to
hit escape
for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see. Let me go back and see if I have to stop share for a minute. Unfortunately, it's making me do that.
Okay.
And I have to do it this way. Sorry. Oh, man. It messed up everything. Sorry about that.
Do you still have your tab to the Mentimeter?
No, unfortunately. I do, but what happens is when you do this, you have to go back and forth. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go to there it goes.
Was everybody able to put some words in, I hope? Let's see what it looks like.
Yeah, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to go back and forth. And can you see?
Yes. So we have love, acceptance, family, friends, purpose. I like that. Kindness, experiences, security. Feel free to keep adding.
I love to watch it grow. That's why. I wanted people to see it happen. And you can actually go in if you have some more. I think I made it so you can put in more if you want.
Here we go. Trust, values, community. But the big ones so far are acceptance, staying, yes, feeling safe.
Isn't that fun to that acceptance got to one of the biggest at the
yes.
So whatever more people said, it is the one in the largest. Yeah.
Community is getting bigger. Yeah, I was surprised community was so small. I thought it would be bigger, but yeah. This is awesome.
So keep working on it and we'll come back to it maybe, or they can come back and take a look at it.
Sure, we can look at it later.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'll make a screen capture of it when it's done and add it as a slide. So that way
perfect.
They'll have that. So when they actually look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another one. That's really interesting.
So are you ready to go to the next slide?
Ready.
Okay. So unfortunately, when I go to present, it throws it off. So I may have to do that again like I did.
Yep, it's okay. So the first couple of slides are mine. I wanted to talk a little bit about belonging. So all of those words that you all put in, everybody, when I interview on my podcast, everybody has a sort of a different take about their relationship with the idea of belonging, which is really interesting. And so my story to belonging, really briefly, is that a number of years ago, people were asking me, people I would meet, family members, people I would meet at conferences, they were really curious about how I was able to settle down in Kuwait for so many years and feel at home here, as well as still feeling comfortable and at home when I went back to stay with my mom in Buffalo, New York, and when I was in the United States, and sort of navigating that whole space. And the more I researched into why that was, the more I realized that it all had to do with belonging. And so I'm a nerd and I love researching. And so I began reading a lot about belonging. And of course, if you're talking about belonging, you go to Maslow, but there's a lot of newer research about belonging. And so what I started putting together was what really is belonging. Brene Brown, for all of you who know Brene Brown, has been doing research for over 20 years about belonging and vulnerability and so forth. And she was really one of the first people to say belonging is not fitting in. Belonging is not fitting in. It is the true sense of, just like all those words you put in there, acceptance, safety, love, kindness, and caring. But the more I looked into belonging, the more I saw that there really is this whole idea of self-confidence, self-esteem, and begins with safety and trust. In order to really have those healthy relationships, we need to have a sense of self-belonging, I call it. And that self-belonging is self-efficacy, self-esteem, that understanding of oneself to be able to then handle and relate healthy, to have healthy relationships with others. And whether that is personal belonging, which is through our with our students as teachers to students, or students to students, or student to teacher, for our friends and our family. So our personal belonging starts with self-belonging. Now, obviously, this isn't linear. It just like Maslow's hierarchy isn't linear. We go back and forth as we age, as we get more wisdom, as we understand ourselves better. We are able to have that sense of self-belonging become stronger and stronger. And I think if you think back to how you felt when you didn't feel the self-confidence or self-esteem, and you were searching for that sense of belonging, probably can relate to relationships that weren't as solid as you might have wanted them. And so when we look at personal belonging, and then we look to professional belonging, which is our relationships in work, which also are similar to the personal belonging, but different because they're more formal. And we relate to people who are our superiors, our team members, our colleagues, the people who support us. And of course, in school, if we don't walk into the building and feel that sense of belonging, it's often that we really don't feel like we want to be there every day. And if you talk to students, most often, many times, you'll find that if the building doesn't offer that sense of belonging, they only feel that sense of belonging when they're in their classroom. And so that sense of belonging is really important, but it all starts with the self-belonging. And of course, the safety and trust is really important because we need to have that climate, that environment for us to be able to tell our stories, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, and also to be able to feel that sense of we can talk about ourselves and we trust the environment. Of course, you mentioned acceptance was a big one on our Mentimeter cloud, inclusion and respect, and then moving to self-actualization. And Barbara, if you can move to the next slide. Talking about good ancestors. So this is a term that I heard first from Layla F. Saad, who wrote Me and White Supremacy. And she and several others are now writing about becoming a good ancestor. It's what we all should strive to be. It's our self-actualization. And self-actualization isn't that we become our better selves or our best selves just to be our best selves, but we become our best selves so that we can make the community better and leave a legacy that will be remembered for one, and for second, most important is that we leave the world a better place than we found it. And so this Kenyan proverb I love, which is treat the world well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was willed to you by your children. And if we really keep that in mind, when we reached that level of self-actualization where we followed our passion, we found our purpose, and we know where we're headed, whatever that thing may be, whatever we're really good at, then we will have reached that self-actualization that Maslow and others have talked about. And that's what we should be motivated to do, but motivated for the common good, not just for ourselves. And so go ahead, Barbara, take it from here.
Well, we should talk about this.
We should, yes.
Yes. I've been going to the ISTE conference, International Society for Technology and Education, for years and years. And I always told myself I'd never let anyone sit alone. And I think it was in 2017, I was at the Digital Badge Conference before the ISTE conference, and I saw this woman sitting alone, and I sat down with her. And we never stopped talking all night. And the first thing I said is, you have to meet some people. And the first picture is I think the one on the left is the second day. But the first day was the picture in the middle. And she's probably wondering, who is this lady? I'm taking you to meetings, I'm taking you to parties, and I'm introducing you to people. And I just felt so like I've known Ilene for years. Isn't that how you felt?
Yes, yeah, we feel like soul sisters. And what's really interesting is I was always really tentative. It doesn't seem like that from these pictures, but I want to tell you that Barbara brings out the silliness, but also the fun and the real authentic who you are. And what I was really lucky was that she sat down next to me that day, because I have always been extremely shy and very introverted. And
Not anymore.
No. And she introduced me to so many different people, and we just had a ball. And so it was a life changer for me, actually. There are so many different things that have happened as a result of my knowing Barbara and knowing myself better because of Barbara. And that is a big part of my self-belonging, is that I was sort of on this path of understanding, but Barbara was one of the key people who helped me understand who I really was and what my purpose was. And so, yeah, and so we're really excited to be able to present this together.
But you can blame me for everything then.
Oh, yeah. All good, all good.
Yeah. So that last picture is we've roomed together at multiple conferences. And we've also been part of the global collaborative for ISTE. And
Scavenger hunt, yes.
And here we are as Wonder Women. And that's
Yes.
just one of the times. I mean, we've done pyramids with other people and got on.
Yes.
And the thing that's really fun is there's got to be someone in your life like this who has helped you become you, a better you. And Ilene has made me a better me. It's not just me helping her find, this new person in herself. It's just that when someone is that person in your life, you want to recognize them. So you go ahead and write in the chat, is there anyone in your life that has done that for you? I just think it's your husband. Yeah, so I think it's just a really good idea to recognize that we can't do these things alone and sometimes find ourselves. So keep writing that. We'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
And you can start on this one and then I'll go with mine. But
yes. So we talk about belonging with purpose and then purpose with belonging. The belonging with purpose all has to do with our path. And as I mentioned when I was talking through the first couple of slides about belonging, in order to really find where you're headed, you need to understand your purpose and your why. But in order to have that really solid foundation to follow that purpose or to find that why, you need to feel that sense of belonging. And as Barbara just said, that sense of belonging comes from an individual or several individuals who believe in you. And so for me, it's my husband, Abdul Mohsen, who's sitting next to me in this picture. I think we're in Lebanon. And my three children, Barak and Haya and Mashari, who took this photo because they know how much I love photos. And so they got dressed up specially for this formal photo a couple of years ago. And they are really my rock. They're the reason why I do things every single day. And I love sharing with them. I'm very lucky that Debbie said that her husband is one of the people who really is her go-to person and the one that she's able to feel pushes her on and explore her self-belonging and her purpose. And I want to say my husband really was the first one who truly believed in me and got me going on this path to my understanding that there was more to me than I really understood. He saw it first. So, and Barbara, I love your family photo.
Well, what's interesting is that it's hard to say which one, but my husband definitely, he's standing behind me, pushing me, nudging me all the time, believing in me. But I'm so fortunate to have a beautiful family. I have three sisters. And I have, my granddaughter is bigger than me now. That picture is a little bit older, but she's 13. But she and I are special friends, telling secrets and doing a lot on FaceTime and Zoom. So what I find is family is, I think Ilene just wrote that, family is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And for me, my family has been there to support me and believe in me. And I think we're lucky if we have that. We're very lucky.
Yeah. And if not, then it's important to have someone else who feels like a sister or brother or mother or father, one of those role models, soul sisters or brothers.
And that is that I've talked about Ilene to my family over and over and over and over again. And I know that Ilene said some things about me to her family because they reached out and my family says, we want to meet Ilene. So it's fun when you find somebody who you can connect with. So think about that for your life because it's really important to those connections. I'm going to go on because I want to talk about the why. And Simon Sinek, he brings up that all of us can start with our why, but if you look at this golden circle, I did change it a little bit from what he had because he had why, how, what. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. But what he mentioned in his work is everyone knows kind of what they do. We know how we do it, but few people know why we do what we do. And sometimes we're doing some things, especially as teachers, we might be teaching something and wonder, why are we teaching this? Or why are we testing on this? Or why? I'm hearing that a lot from teachers right now. So this why, if we can bring it together with our belonging and the feeling of who we are, then it makes it, we feel more alive, more who we are. And so the way this circle is why, you know, the why is the purpose. And I always say it's what makes your heart sing. Steve Jobs did a commencement speak in 2015 that actually, he said, look for that. Look for what makes your heart sing. The what is that goal. And then that's kind of what you're looking for. And the how is the process you go through it. I'd like to show you a video. And let me see if I can just make it go to the part I want. And mainly because of the left quote, purpose is the reason you journey, passion is the fire that lights your way. And sometimes we don't know what we're passionate about. We live it, we do it, but we don't always know. So this is from Michael Jr. I'm just moving some things around so I can get to it. And let me just move it to a point. Michael Jr. is a comedian, and he was doing Know Your Why, and he asked the audience, and he said, is there anyone that is, you know, would like to share? So he asked this one gentleman who is a music teacher to share what he's passionate about.
So you're a musical director? Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow.
That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying?
All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I see.
Okay, so I love this. I don't know. I hope you love it. If you love it, you can just put thumbs up on the reactions or whatever you think. But what I found is a lot of us.
Thanks, Rose.
Thank you. Anyone else go ahead. It's what I find that is when the first time I saw that, I realized a lot of us are doing that first version. We're teaching that way because we do, that's what we know. But we never want to show that other side of us. And sometimes that passion, that passion brings us alive. It brings the children in the class, it brings them alive because they hear that you're passionate about something. But a lot of times we hold it down. Do you feel that way? I mean, Riley, would
Yeah, absolutely. And Heather is saying it's an awesome video for the why. Yeah, if someone loves and is passionate about what they do, there's just an inner joy and a different feeling than just going through the motions.
and a lot of times that's all we can do because of the time with school. I mean, as a teacher myself,
True.
it was hard. And I'm just going to bring back, I said I was a hygienist. I used to work in an office where they had little lights. When the next person showed up, it would blink. And all I could see is I didn't have enough time. And I would rush and the stress. And I didn't want to keep the person waiting, but I wanted to work on the person that was there, work with the person. And then when teaching, the same thing happened, is that I was told I was a social studies teacher and that I had to teach, certain, it was ancient civilizations. And I never got to the last two civilizations because I took too much time. But I wanted to really get to the deep part of, of
you wanted to get to the learning, Barbara. You wanted to get to the learning, and you could see that the students were enjoying what you were talking about, and it's hard to move forward. So
I know.
Yeah, that's all of us as teachers, administrators. We always feel that stress, especially, this year. So it's even more important to really know your why, even if you're in the midst of the what and the how.
So on that note, I'm taking you into Ikigai. I don't know how many of you know Ikigai. If you do, put your thumbs up. If not, because I'm going to
just put yes in the chat.
Yes, or whatever, if you already know it. But what I'm going to do is just explain a little bit about it, and then we're actually going to do an activity around it. One of the things that I found when I found Ikigai is I was having a tough time in my life. And someone sent me a book on this. And I think it was almost 10, 15 years ago. And it's the Japanese concept for the meaning of life. It's that reason to get out of bed in the morning. And in Japan, they have no word for retirement. So they feel that no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, you need that purpose. And what happens is you may not live it with passion, but you can find what you love and what you're good at. And that's what that music teacher, the director did. He is good at this, but he loves it. You see? And so that's some of the things that I found is I needed to find what that Ikigai, it's pronounced Ikigai. And a lot of people, when I said it, I did a presentation at South by Southwest 3 years ago of it. And several people got really excited and they were going, I'd walk down the hall and they were going, there's the Ikigai lady. And everyone's going, what is that? And so, but if you look it up, someone created this Venn diagram around it, and where it all intersects. It's also what the world needs and what you're valued for. The original diagram said what you're paid for, but let's be real as an educator. Sometimes your value is just what you value and what other people value. I mean, when you get a thank you from a student, that's payment many times. It makes you feel good. So let's see if we can do this next one. It's on a Padlet. So I have it with the QR code, and I also have it with a link, and it's also on the handout. If you want, I can get it to you, Heather, but I think that actually you can do that, Ilene. If I go to the other, I might lose everything. But the Padlet is where I'd like you to write, what do you love? And what are you good at? And is there a way that you see that could be something you're passionate about, that you can actually look at doing, that you feel you love and want to do more of? So can you get to that, Ilene?
Yeah. Oh, Heather beat me to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
You're
So-
welcome on stage.
So what you do when you're there on the Padlet, you can either double click on the blue background or that plus sign with the pink around, you know, the pink circle. And then you can add that. And if you want to put your name with it, and then it'll build like Post-it notes on it. And this is something you can do with your kids. Now I can go there and take a look at it and say people can watch it, or we can just wait and let people do it and come back later. What do you think?
It's up to you. If you want me to show it, you could stop sharing and I could share.
Oh,
That's faster.
yeah, let me do that.
That way you don't have to get
Yeah,
what you're doing.
okay.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
Family and hiking. Nice.
I love this.
I love
Oh,
being
I
a
love
mom
that
to my
what
three
even
kids.
problem solving and creating. I love it.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And being a mom. I love that. Family and hiking.
Hmm.
It makes me feel so good when people actually have something they can write.
Yeah. Oh, pottery. Oh, I used to love doing that, having my hands
Me too.
wet and squishy and everything. I'm not very good at it, but it is fun. I haven't done it in a really long time. That's
Well,
awesome.
I've done sculptures. I have a sculpture here I've done. But
Oh,
when I
wow.
tried on the wheel, it was
Yeah.
funny. My husband made fun because I was always like in my,
Oh, yeah, wobbling. Yes, yes, yeah.
I was a wobbler. But,
Yes.
Yeah. This
Adventure
is
and music. I love that. The two together. Joyce is adventure and music. I love the
And
two
you can put
together.
your name if you'd like. It's
Mhm.
right now it's anonymous. If you wanted to go back, you can go and edit and add your name if you'd like to, or put it at the
Rose
bottom.
says creating, exploring, enjoying things. Yes, just for the sheer enjoyment. That's awesome.
Isn't that
Computers
right?
and technology. Yes. That wouldn't have been one of mine a number of years ago, but it certainly is one of mine now.
Well, I'm sure loving Zoom because I get to meet with so many wonderful people and do these conversations. So when
Yeah.
you look at what you wrote and what other people wrote,
Mhm.
how can you share these with your kids? Because this is your story. You see, and some of the stories we hold to ourselves. We don't talk about it because we have our curriculum that we have to cover. We have to get them prepared for tests, you know, all of those things. But if we pull down and ask them to do something like this, and so they can actually talk about some of the things they love and they're good at. What do you think about that?
I actually have started calling them since I interviewed Nicole and her son Jason after they wrote their book. I talk about superpowers. What are your superpowers? And kids really, we don't, but certainly kids don't understand what they're good at. And they often, maybe they're talented at something sports wise or music wise or drama wise or writing or math or something like that. But really, what are my superpowers? What are the things in general I'm good at? Maybe I'm good at, somebody here said, I'm good at connecting people. Somebody said I'm good at learning things and then talking to people and teaching them those things. Those are all awesome superpowers, but we need to make sure that we share ours in order to model for our students. I totally agree with you, Barbara.
So Sarah wrote in the chat, as an icebreaker, I often ask the kids to tell about a hidden talent they have.
Very
I
much so.
love
Yes.
that. So the thing that I find is really important for all of us is we got to remember that they look up to us. They really feel like they don't know you and they really want to know you. So we want to give them that opportunity by being okay about being vulnerable, sharing our story, but sharing what we love and some of the things we do so we can model it like you just said.
Right. Yeah. So I stopped sharing. You can go back to the
Thank you.
slides.
Thank you.
Because I think we have about 6 minutes left.
Really? Oh my gosh. Well, then let's go to this. We feel that it's so important that if you have belonging, sense of belonging, and you feel you know your purpose, that supports your mental health and well-being. And especially now, we've had such a year that Dr. Basil Marin actually put with this picture. You have to do the heart work before the hard work. And to me, it's so important for us, especially maybe next year when you're working with your students, is that you spend that time getting to know them, getting to understand their sense of belonging and the connections and their story, and then work on their ikigai and their purpose. I want to go to the next one just so we can talk about how we pull them together. Because we did want them to actually put in the chat something, and we have to see if we have enough time for that.
Right. Yeah. So if you look at belonging and purpose together, because you might still be saying, you know, I'm not really sure how they fit together and how what that has to do with mental health and well-being. It has everything to do with mental health and well-being. If we don't have a sense of belonging, if we don't know our purpose, we will not feel well. It's really hard for us to learn. It's very difficult for us to establish healthy relationships. It's really tough in an environment where we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or even 3 months into the future. And so all of these things, relationships, voice and choice, having a positive culture in the classroom, in the school, at home, a trust and respect. Without trust and respect, you don't have that safe space and you can't have that sense of belonging, not for you, not for your colleagues, and certainly not for your students, and even for the parents.
Can I just talk about
Barbara? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Real quick about because I want to go kind of quick before I want them to do one activity if we can.
Yes,
the
go ahead.
journaling. I found that it's very important for people to journal and maybe have a gratitude journal. What is that attitude of gratitude? Waking up in the morning, what do you think about every day? And do that. That idea of having a mind full, or are you mindful? That idea of breathing and learning about you and taking some time to really pause, changing your mindset. Because a lot of us wake up and go, oh my gosh, I have this to do, this to, but what if you go, wow, the sun's shining, I can hear the birds. and so if we can just take some time for ourselves. So I feel like we really need this time for us to help our kids by modeling this. So I don't know if we'll have time for this next one, but take a look and we'll see. Whoops, let me do that. We wanted you to create one step, just one thing in the chat that you think you would like to do to create a sense of belonging and define your purpose. So
for yourself.
For yourself.
Yes.
So we'd love to have you just write that in the chat. We talked a lot. I didn't know we did.
I know, we are talkers. We did say that. We did tell them that in the beginning though, but yeah.
Yeah, we did talk a lot. So put something in. What do you think you'll do on Monday? What could be something that you could do to help with you feeling that sense of belonging or purpose?
Hey, Barbara and Ilene, I'm going to go ahead and put the session evaluation on so that we can round up from here also in there, and then leave it open so that people can continue to chat throughout here. And I'll leave it open for about 5 more minutes if people want to continue to stay on. Thank you for all of the people that attended. Please go ahead and take the survey. The session recording will be in the Canvas page if you would like to go back to it. And you can also get to the discussion.
Oh, you muted,
You
Heather.
muted, you
Sorry,
muted.
just kidding. I hit a button. I didn't know that did that. You guys can continue the discussion inside of Canvas with the presenter. So let me go ahead and put that in, and I will leave it open for you guys.
Heather,
Yeah,
thank
and
you so much.
also, yeah, thank you. Thank you all for attending. And the link to the to all of the resources is also in where our session is with the session evaluation. So.
And also down below, you'll see there's a link to the handout, and the handout has a link to everything we put in the presentation.
Right. And links on our websites and so forth, so that you can have additional information about belonging and finding your why.
And Rose wrote, I'm going to take one idea that we learned and implement it. It will, from the week, which because it was amazing, there were so many. It will make me feel good and keep the inertia and energy for this week going. Thank you so much, Rose.
Yes.
Is there anyone else that would like to share and put something in? You can, like, we have 3 more minutes left or something like that. But
yeah.
Please put those in, but I'm going to go to the last slide. So if you need to ever get a hold of us or want to know, we put up our cards for you, just so information. And Sharon, but I'm going to reach out to people who are positive and accepting and avoid the negativity.
Yeah.
We all have to. It's crazy though. We get pulled into the negative so easily. And trying to stay positive.
I think sometimes we try to turn that negativity around, but if it becomes too much, I think we do need to concentrate on the positive. So if you're feeling that at this point in the year, because you're 3/4 of the way or more through the year, and if you've been going through that negativity a lot, then focusing on the positive is absolutely the best.
Yeah,
and it's part of self-care, you know, that self-compassion. Somebody I know was talking about boundaries, that whole idea of what are my boundaries, and it's not to keep people out, but it's to protect me.
Yes.
So and that's part of self-care, is creating those boundaries. And Melinda says, I can't wait to share some of the ideas I've gotten this week with my teachers. That's awesome. Thanks, Melinda.
I love that. I mean, that's when you go to a conference and it's so nice, because I just got so many ideas from the ones that I, participated in, and it just makes me, and also if there's any people you want to continue connecting with, make sure you reach out. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about conferences is finding people who sort of spur you on and help you find your why.
But like I say it to Ilene all the time, whenever I need just to get that feeling of belonging again, or when I'm sad, I feel like it's I reach out to Ilene. Thank you, Sharon, for being here. We're very, very, very lucky. Enjoy. Thank you. Oh, yes. A lot of people stop me and think I'm Bette Midler. I have some people that go, here comes Bette.
Yes, yeah. Also, if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself or type it in the chat if there are any questions, anything that you want to know from either one of us.
What a wonderful group. Thank you so much. We were looking forward to doing this, and it's something that Ilene and I talk about all the time, and we thought, what a wonderful opportunity to actually work together and do this with each other. And and with you, everyone. So
the benefits of the virtual world.
Is there anyone that wanted to, I see Rita might be unmuted. Is there anyone wants to ask us anything?
So this is Sarah. I just wanted to say one thing. You asked the last question about what, I can't remember how you phrased it, but something about what is the first thing you're going to do to find your sense of, or your purpose or whatever. And I just drew a complete blank. It's so hard. I find it to be easier to help the children with that. But then when it comes to myself, especially in this virtual time, it just seems like a blank. So what advice would you have for that?
Well, I have a lot of teachers tell me that. The reason you go into teaching is because you really want to help the kids and make a difference with kids. I have to say, when I listen to a lot of teachers tell me this, a lot of things that have happened have made you lose that sense of purpose and feeling like you're worthy. And so what we have to do is figure out a way to come back to you and spend a little time on you. Have empathy for you. But the little, I do a thing with the child of you. What is it about that child that you remember that was so full of joy, and how can you get that back? And so maybe look at one thing that made you so happy and how can you do it? And mine is dancing. So I put on a dance party on Zoom. So what is it?
We did.
Yeah, I know I'm nutty, but
No, that's okay. Everybody had a great time, I understand.
yeah, we do that. But Rita, think about something that brought you joy then, and that you think about that could bring you joy that you'd like to bring back. Maybe one thing. It could be gardening, it could be tennis, it could be anything.
Could be reading for pleasure,
For pleasure.
knitting, horseback riding, could be just about anything.
Or going for a walk and listening to the birds.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be big.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the one thing.
That's a great question. And thank you so much for sharing that with us.
That was actually a very powerful question. That's one that I think a lot of people, especially teachers, feel that way. Did
Well,
that
thank
help?
you, ladies. I greatly appreciate Barbara and Ilene. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Thank you to all of our participants. I'm going to go ahead and close the session and stop the recording. We appreciate it and hope you guys can join us for the rest of the sessions.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank you,
Heather.
Heather.
Thank everybody,
Thanks,
all the organizers also. Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.